why today is all about pricing homes. If you are a real estate agent or a seller, then this is going to be super important for you to think about. We here at the Weaver Burn Group use a slightly different method than the standard comparable market analysis that you might hear about from many agents. We feel like the pricing is really just one part of the marketing strategy. And in order to really develop marketing strategy, there needs to be a coherent thought process behind how you're pricing, how you're positioning, and how you're ultimately marketing the home to find the end buyer. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line down our paper and start listing all of the desirable variables of the home and all of the not so desirable variables of the home. What this is going to allow us to do is really to understand how many of those variables can we either eliminate, plan for, or adjust the price in some way to make sure that we're reaching the demographic that really is the target market for your particular home. Everything on the negative side of the list, we're going to do one of two things. First thing we're going to do is ask ourselves, can this variable be eliminated with money? That money can either come from the seller, or it can come from an investor prior to listing, or it can be adjusted for on the purchase price or the terms of the offers that we expect. It's going to happen in one of those three ways. So we can either address them at the front end of the transaction, or we can just plan for it as part of the positioning of the property, like how we market the property. Now there's going to be other negative variables that are not adjusted with money. Those are going to be things like the actual street it's on, the school zone it's in, environmental hazards within the property boundaries. Now for those, we have to dissect into a couple different categories as well. First category is going to be, is this something that's going to affect price and price only, or is it going to affect the demographic and desirability of that particular home for a set demographic? So what I mean here is that if you're on a busy street, there's not much you can do about that. There's only going to be a number of buyers that are going to be okay with living on a busy street. Back in 2019, my business partner Brandon Byrne and I door knocked a listing in a very desirable neighborhood of Seattle. Now this neighborhood is called Blue Ridge. It's a section of Northwest Seattle. All the homes are in this bowl on a hillside with amazing views of the mountains and the sound, and the sunsets are absolutely incredible. The variable was that they had performed a lot of structural engineering to the foundation, and it was on a environmentally critical area with steep slopes in the backyard. Now, the issue with this particular variable is there's not much you can do to change it unless you were to spend a very, very high dollar amount to fix the environmentally critical area. So that really wasn't an option for this particular listing. So we had to look at how would this variable actually affect our marketing strategy and how would it affect the buyer demographic. Now, Blue Ridge is a particular neighborhood that is starting to age out. So there's a transition happening within that subset of the market, and a lot of the buyers and the demographics were actually younger families, which is an issue for a variable that has no backyard and is on a steep slope. Now this variable eliminates all of the buyers in that neighborhood that have kids or have a dog. Having a backyard, a flat backyard, is pretty much a deal killer. When we went into the listing appointment, Brandon and I said, hey, we think that this house is actually worth a lot more than what the competing agents were quoting a listing price at. As opposed to this variable being a function of price, we knew that it was going to be a function of time. At that point in the market, homes in the area were selling between 10 and 13 days on the market. And so part of the conversation, because of this big variable in the backyard, is that I think we can list for a much more aggressive price if we're willing to wait for the correct buyer who's going to appreciate this magnificent property that did not need a backyard. So what we did is we strategized our marketing plan to only really spend time looking for families without kids or families that had kids who were just about to leave the house. We knew that that was going to take a little bit more time. And so this variable was a function of time versus a function of price. Once we have that list of desirable attributes and variables and undesirable variables, then we can start to craft what a pricing strategy and a marketing strategy actually look like for a particular seller and the situation that they're in. Now, another thing that we really need to keep in mind is that not all square footage is going to be equal. What I mean by that is that a comparable from a house down the street, it might be a ranch style home. Everything's on one floor. Let's say it's 2,000 square feet. We're going to value that 2,000 square feet much differently than we would a split level home or a daylight rambler, where you have part of your square footage that's covered by basement. That basement square footage, we're probably only going to value at about 60% of what we would the square footage for the ranch style home, which is all on ground level. And we know that that ranch style home is also going to open up the demographic buying pool to people who are looking for a home that they can age into, something that does not have stairs and has better accessibility for handicap or aging into place. That's how we're going to start to look at the variables of a property so that we can accurately craft a plan and a marketing strategy that fits the narrative of the home that we're selling. So once we've accounted for the variables and we've started to look at square footage based on desirability of square footage, then we can look at the comparables in the neighborhood to understand how are we going to position the property within the marketplace so that we can be the most desirable home based on all of these factors that we've really intentionally thought about in terms of telling a story, in terms of highlighting features, in terms of downplaying maybe not so great features. So that's really how we approach listing a home and how we approach evaluating the desirability of the home itself. The last thing we need to talk about is the fact that your home likely does not have a correct price. It has a price range. And so we really want to start thinking about what is the price range that is appropriate, because you as the seller or the listing agent, there's going to be goals associated with how you sell your home, not just for the price that you sell your home. So for instance, if you are a seller that has the need to relocate, or maybe you have a contingent home or a home that you're looking to move into that has a particular timeline, then we're going to look at the appropriate range for the home, and we might want to list a little bit more on the conservative side at a lower price in order to decrease the days on market. This can be the opposite as well if you have plenty of timeline and it's okay to be a little bit more aggressive on the price, knowing that it might take several more weeks to actually sell the house for the price that you're willing to take. We're looking at the whole picture. We're looking at the set of goals for the seller. We're not just looking at what we think the one particular price could be for a home. We're really looking at the big picture, right? The big picture, what is the seller trying to achieve, and what are all of the variables associated with that particular home that we can use to our advantage, or we can eliminate with time or money. So there you go. That's just a quick insight as to how we at the Weaver Burn Group like to approach pricing the homes. It is not an exact science, it's rather an art, and there's a lot of intuition and understanding exactly what type of buyers are in the market today or when you list the home, and what is most desirable, what are the trends that are happening, and how do we actually create a narrative around the house using the variables and really understanding what it is that we are offering to the market. Because once we understand what we're offering to the market, that's where we can start to create the story that allows for that home to sell at the best price and terms. So there you go. Leave a comment if you agree or disagree. We always love hearing how other real estate brokers and sellers who might be selling their own home, how do you price your properties? How do you approach this? Obviously, there's a lot of different methodologies. This is the one that has worked for us. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.